Hey, what's up guys? Alex here with a new video, and today we're going to be doing a fun comparison between the new Sigma 50mm f1.4 and the Sony 50mm f1.2 G Master. The Sony 51.2 G Master I consider to be a perfect 50mm lens. It's a pricey one, but it sure is worth every dollar. So how does this new Sigma 51.4 compare? Well, we're going to find out. Guys, if you're new to the channel, I am a portrait photographer based out of Orlando, Florida, and I just recently switched over to Sony. I've been having tons of fun using all the third-party options out there and doing comparisons like this. So if you're into that, feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. In today's video, we're really going to cover three things. We're going to cover price, we're going to cover size, and then we're going to cover the most important part, image quality. You're probably wondering why I included size in the middle. You'll see why. So we're going to kick things off with price. Now, here is where Sigma really has just done an incredible job the last few years. They've been putting out just amazing lenses at ridiculous prices. And you're going to see kind of what I mean by that when we look at the image quality. But this new 51.4 by Sigma retails for $849. When you compare that to the Sony G Master right now is retailing for $1,998, almost $2 away from 2,000 bucks. And that is essentially over double the price of the Sigma. But are you getting double the quality? And how is Sigma creating these incredible lenses at this price point? Well, that's how we segue into size. So making things smaller and compact costs money, costs a lot of R&D, development. And I think Sigma, instead of sacrificing on image quality or build quality because their lenses are just built like tanks, I think they really sacrifice in the size department. What I mean by that is, here we have the Sigma 51.4 and the Sony 1.2. So you would think of a 1.2 lens being larger and heavier, and in this case, the Sigma is actually a hair longer. Not by much, but it is a longer lens. Now, when you look at the weight of these lenses, the Sigma is lighter, coming in at 660 grams, and the Sony comes in at 778 grams, but the difference isn't that large when you're comparing a 1.2 lens versus a 1.4 lens. And here's where I think Sigma's really kind of cutting on cost. Instead of making a smaller lens and pricing it more expensive, they're sacrificing some of the size, keeping the image quality, and selling it at a cheaper price. So when you look at these lenses and when you look at form factor, you do have to understand with the Sigma, you are getting a slightly larger lens, not heavier, but it does impact how you hold the camera and in the end, how it fits in your camera bag. Not that big of a difference, but I gotta point it out. So where Sigma won in the price department, Sony will definitely win here in the size department because you're getting a brighter lens in a smaller form factor. But I think those two things are second and third place, or minor when you really look at image quality. So we're going to take a look at some photos. I shot some photos side by side, try to get the same composition, use the same settings. For these photos, I used the Sony a7R5, so a 61 megapixel sensor to really push these lenses and see how they do. And we're going to take a look. All these photos will be available for you to download and play with yourself, so you can come up with your own conclusions. But let's go ahead and dive into Lightroom and do some pixel peeping. Okay, so all these images are all unedited. I did match the white balance across the board. And in some of the photos, I did lower the exposure on the Sony because at 1.2, it definitely lets in more light than a 1.4. And I wanted to have equal lighting for the comparison. If not, we're gonna have some blown out highlights. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive right in. Here in these two images, we have the Sigma on the left-hand side and the Sony on the right-hand side. And from initial kind of looks, both look great. In this example, the Sony is shot at 1.4, so the settings match identically. And when we zoom in, we're gonna notice off the bat, both lenses are just incredibly sharp wide open. I mean, this is just as much sharpness as you would want on a portrait lens, and I think you can't complain on either or. Where you're gonna notice a difference here, and the only difference you're gonna notice is in the background, you're gonna see some green fringing on this tree on the Sigma side, where if you look at the Sony, there is no fringing at all. If you zoom in beyond 100%, you might see some fringing just a tad in the model's hair right here. and you will not see any on the Sony side. So here is the biggest difference right now in this set of photos. I think sharpness, they both look great. Contrast, I mean, in both of them, you get that 3D pop. Background blur looks pretty good on both. Slight fringing on the Sigma. Let's move on to another set of images. Now for this set of images, exact same setting, except I'm shooting them at 2.0 instead of 1.4. I wanted to see if that made any difference on the Sigma side or the Sony side as far as any fringing or sharpness. So let's go ahead and zoom right in. Zooming in, again, both are just incredibly sharp. I'm going to be saying that a lot in this comparison. But even at 2.0, you do get some green fringing on the Sigma side versus the Sony. Again, you have a perfect image. And background blur, I mean, it looks maybe slightly better on the Sony. Going to be all preference. I really can't see that much of a difference. Let's move on to another set. Okay, on this set, again, Sigma's on the left, Sony's on the right. This time the Sony's at 1.2. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And I told you guys, these are sharp lenses. I can't say anything negative about the sharpness. And I think the Sigma is really competing with the Sony when you look at the sharpness department. I mean, is the Sony here worth 2 times the Sigma in the sharpness department? Absolutely not. Let's look at the sides to see if we see any fringing. And again, ever so slightly here on the model's hair, some green fringing, but nothing crazy. And the background blur is a little creamier at 1.2, but not as much as I thought you were gonna get. Yes, it is creamier, but the difference is minor. 1.4 is still a ton of bokeh, and it looks great. Go ahead and zoom out. Both images look great. Let's take a look at some of the bokeh balls in the background. Look, clients don't care about this, but this is a comparison for YouTube, so we gotta do it. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. Bokeh balls look creamier, smoother on the Sony side, more defined on the Sigma side. Enough of that, we did it. Let's move on to another set of images. In this set here, again, Sigma's on the left, Sony's on the right. Sony's at 1.2. Tried to match the composition. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And again, sharpness, I would say they are on par. You're seeing way more than you should be seeing. These lenses are incredible. And looking at, let's look at the background. There's really not gonna be any fringing here because there's not too much contrast coming in from the background. I mean, you do see a little fringing here if you zoom in, and you don't see it on the Sony side. So right now, the biggest difference is just the color fringing. And other than that, I mean, both are just great lenses. Let's go ahead and go to another set. Okay, for this set, again, Sigma's on the left, Sony's on the right. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And a little bit of the same thing. Sharpness, I want to say they're almost identical, but you get fringing on the model's hair on the Sigma, no fringing on the Sony side. Zooming out, they both look great. Let's go to just one final set of images of a statue I wanted to take, and then we'll kind of come up with our conclusions of these two lenses. So here on the right, we have the Sony. On the left, we have the Sigma. Sony's at 1.2. Zooming in, sharpness and detail is just incredible on both of them. And again, the difference is going to be some fringing on the Sigma side. Background blur looks great on both, slightly smoother and creamier on the Sony. And that's pretty much it. So what are my final thoughts looking at these images? First of all, I said this in my first impressions of the Sigma 50 1.4. The results you're getting at $849 are just mind-blowing. It's like I said in my first impressions, I think I said 99% of the G Master, maybe it's like 95% of the Sony G Master at half the cost. So when you look at these two lenses, you really gotta decide, is having just the perfect image quality worth it? If that's what you wanna go for, buy the Sony G Master. Now, you saw the fringing in these images. It is nothing you can't remove in Lightroom. Sometimes you have tons of fringing you just can't remove with some of the cheaper lenses. The fringing you're seeing here is pixel peeping at 1:1, and they can easily be removed with one click. It's not that fringing you see without zooming in. You really have to pixel peep to see it. And another thing you gotta think about is the size of the lenses. Are you comfortable carrying a bigger lens in your bag? It's not that much of a difference, but it is a larger lens. And there are rumors of Sony also releasing a 51.4 G Master, which will be even smaller than the 1.2. But when you really boil it down to just pure image quality and sharpness, you're really not going to miss out on anything if you pick up the Sigma 1.4. I honestly think at $849 it is a steal. And if I didn't already own the Sony G Master, I would pick up the Sigma and save myself $900 and pick up another lens. The price difference is just so large here, and again, the image quality differences are so minor. There's also other features that you're going to miss out if you go with a Sigma, like if you're using a Sony camera for video. The newer Sony cameras do have focus breathing compensation that only works with native lenses. So there's these little things that really separate these lenses, but when you really put them down on a board, you gotta think to yourself, is this worth twice the price, twice the cost, twice the investment? And if you think so, absolutely go for it. But I think if you're on a budget and you're okay with some of the compromises you saw in this video, the Sigma is a phenomenal option. Like I said, all these photos are available for you to download and play with yourself, so check them out and let me know down in the comments below what you think. And as always, guys, please like the video, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Peace.